Well, on Law and Order, it's a little different because every year when we come back, it's basically the same crew that's coming back. It's not a startup situation where you can say this is how it's going to operate on this production. So when we came back this year, there was some initial pushback because that's not the way it was last year. That's not the way it was the year before. It's like, well, no. Despite the way it's been the last few years, things are going to start to change. And I found what really helped was getting the above-the-line people on board, getting the cast and our executive producers to say, yeah, I'm going to recycle. I'm going to stop using plastic water bottles. It was handy to do it, but okay, I see the need for it, and I know that I'm kind of a role model around here, and I can't go around with drinking my water out of a plastic bottle and expect everybody else to recycle. I mean, we've all got to be in this together. And I kind of made that my mission to make sure that everybody was on board above the line. And they jumped in, and that really helped. That got it together. In general, our crew's been very receptive to all the green practices that we put together. Yeah.
Cool. Danny?
I mean, here in New York, the in locations, the tendency is that people that do locations and work under me as their manager are usually younger people. So just the fact that they're from a relatively speaking younger generation of people who are working in film production, environmental issues are a little bit more on their mind, so when it comes to getting on board, it's not hard for my department to get on board. The harder step is, and because again, here in New York, the location department is largely responsible for set operations and set management as to what we're doing and how we do it. So what a lot of my crew winds up being responsible for is trying to get the overall crew to adhere to environmental practices that we want to install. And so to get my crew on board, all I have to say is, guys, this is important to me and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to set up our vendors from garbage to recycling and composting, et cetera, in this way. And whenever you don't need to take your car to go out to the to your work day, and you can take the subway, you can walk or whatever, do that. Where it really helps me and helps the overall greening of a show is if I can turn to them and say, not only is it important to me, but it's important to the production manager who's signing our paychecks. And not only is it important to our production manager, it's important to our executive producer. And then if we can really sort of drive it home, if I can say to them, and not pulling any punches or not lying or manipulating the situation at all, if I can say to them, like I was able to on Morning Glory, that the star of our movie cares, and this is the most important thing to her, and she cares about every little thing, that will drive the engine, because this business is driven by the stars.
Yeah.
And usually the stars are the actors, and if we can say, this is important to our actor, it may be the most important thing to her about this whole movie, it gets everybody on board real quick. Because if the star is not happy, there's going to be problems. And that sort of just to wrap it up and to tie it into your last question to me, one thing that I think for me is very frustrating, I think everyone here would agree, is that a big step that could be taken that doesn't often seem to be happening is the big movie stars that make the top salaries in Hollywood, either they or their agents, and you don't often know who's really asking for what, I think, in that situation. If those stars can do without 4 trailers for themselves and can make do, and I use that term loosely, with 1, and they don't need to travel with a personal entourage just for them, that can make huge impact.
Your hair. I think that's very true. Okay, Dana, should we take a question in the room?
We have Kim Van Hoven.
Oh, Kim,
from
we
LA.
want to hear
Yeah,
from Kim.
Take one question from LA. Let me remind everyone there's a 3-second delay, and then we should open it up to this house.
Okay, perfect.
Kim. Hi, Kim.
Hi. First of all, I'd just like to say hi. I'd like to say how inspiring it is to hear everybody's success stories and advice, but also how inspiring it is to hear what didn't work. It's very cathartic.
Thank you.
So
We can't wait to hear from
I was wondering
you.
if we could speak about other stages of production that could be green.
Can't wait to hear from you.
Other
Can you hear
stages
me?
of production that could be green?
Other stages of production that could be green.
Yes, such as post, distribution, even exhibiting, any other areas that producers could look at, even as we're planning our budgets, that we can make some precautionary measures for.
I mean, in terms of, distribution is not my area of expertise, but one of the conversations that I have had with publicity departments early on in a production is to talk about, what happens when they release and what kind of materials they're using to release, and, the posters, the written materials, the what they're using to make billboards with and things like that has been part of the dialogue. In terms of doing post during production, there's many things you can do in an editorial room that are very similar to what you can do in a production office, and I think that it's just, I know at one point, Katie, you and I had talked about it would be great if we could solar power the Avid, but that was, we'll see one day, hopefully we can. But in terms of, it's hard for me to talk about distribution and what that channel is. I don't know if anyone here in our audience has anything to say
Well,
about it.
remember that Jack Foley from Focus Features
Right.
gave us his little thing on
Yes.
distribution, which was in the foreseeable future, distribution is post and distribution are going to be so much more digitized that there will be a great potential for reducing energy as well as money.
Right.
And a future was described in which nothing leaves the computer at all from the point at which you lock picture through the various answer prints to the master. It is still not leaving the computer. It's being beamed via satellite to the theaters. There are no prints at all being made. They are not being shipped on airplanes. There are no DVDs being created for publicity purposes, and everything is going via computer, satellite hookup or computer hookup to theaters, to press, to everybody. Now, when you ask how soon this is going to happen, you get a variety of different answers because there are certain people who are invested in the old ways that die hard and therefore don't want it to change so quickly. So it's unclear. Jeff Roth at Focus felt that the post part of that was going to happen sooner than the distribution part
and,
of that.
Certain things you can also do, pick system. There are digital systems that can be utilized to view dailies. You can get rid of DVDs. There's no reason to have a DVD these days. There are, Pix is a great example of, it gets uploaded, people have access to it, you can watch it on a computer, you can hook it up to a flat screen TV. There are ways that you can, I would say the simple things that you can do to get rid of, DVDs.
That's right.